So I want to ask you, because this is something that gets some attention, I believe, of this idea of, say, phase-based training or training differently because of some hormonal contraceptive use. Like we had mentioned, the data that do exist, and it's very limited at this time, do not suggest that there's too much of a difference between phases and at least oral contraceptive use. However, I think the D'Souza paper and some others, I think maybe one or two Elliott Sales papers kind of came away with this as well, of there might be some decrement in performance. There might be, right?
Yep.
However, it's not something to where you should approach a female based on the fact that they're using oral contraceptives, that you therefore should expect this decline in performance or some difference in training adaptation, right? So there's two levels, and this comes into play with, this is something we talk about with students, right? Of reading a research paper and then how to apply it in practice, right? So there's not data to say at a group standpoint, at a group level, approach these types of people X way or Y way, right? Based on menstrual cycle phase or contraceptive use. However, at the individual level, they, like you said, right, they may feel differently, fatigue, bloating, cramping, whatever the case is, right? So at the individual level, you may have to approach or train differently, but that's different than given the fact
everyone
that they're
should train like this on this day.
Or only looking at that data point of she's in this phase or she uses oral contraceptives, therefore I'm going to train this way. So can you speak to how to approach training or working with a female, either an athlete or just someone who recreationally is training?
So the way lately I have been thinking about this and how I like to explain it, because it is confusing. There's a lot of stuff out there that's like, do phase-based training and you should do high intensity stuff at this time on this day. And it's not that clear cut. The way I see all of this, and so I'm a body comp researcher. That's kind of my base training is in body comp assessment. And we all know body composition, important for performance. It's related to performance. There's ranges that are a little more optimal depending on what we're trying to do, favoring different performance. It's not the be all say all, but there's definitely some ranges that benefit the performance. And so menstrual cycle to me is very similar. It's not the be all say all to your performance. There's variability within that, but there might be some subtle differences relative to the individual that we could kind of account for and maybe anticipate and either adjust our training a little bit to account for that, or try to compensate for some of that, or maybe we adjust our nutrition a little bit to try to prevent a negative effect, or take advantage of a more positive effect. And so to me, menstrual cycle is just one more thing we can add to a female athlete profile. If we're checking, monitoring athletes and we're already tracking all these things, it's just one more piece to the bigger puzzle that is where, looking for the red flags or something that, hey, maybe we should just be aware. They're in their luteal phase right now. So just if things are all kind of aligning, hey, that might be something we need to be aware of. So not the be all say all, but it's just another part of the female athlete profile. So I think what is helpful right now, what I tell most females is just start tracking your cycle. Most females don't right now have access to anything that quantitatively tells them their hormone levels. Most of us have an app. We can track, when did I have menstruation? I would encourage then layering on, when do I experience certain symptoms, positive and negative. Not all symptoms are negative. A lot of them are. That's the ones we tend to pay more attention to. But maybe, when do I feel really, really good? When do I have trouble sleeping? When do I have pain? When do I feel like I was kind of weak? Gosh, my workout felt really hard today. By tracking that consistently, then we can start to say, am I seeing trends in my personal data? So if I'm working with a team and I see one of the girls consistently, about every 4 weeks, heart rate's kind of high, seems like she's, got a higher RPE. If that's consistently happening and we're always seeing that late luteal phase light up, okay, might be a sign that, hey, this is a little bit hormonal related. And what are some things we can do to help address that? Is she having trouble sleeping? Does she seem extra stressed with all of that? So does that mean I need to just drop her intensity a little bit? Do I need to encourage a little bit more recovery? Do I need to, hey, let's get a little extra nutrition in to try to compensate for some of that? The cool part to me then, if I know that's coming every single month, what can I do leading up to that now to maybe help lessen that effect that's consistently happening? So does that mean hey, this thing's coming up again. I'm approaching about that time when I always feel extra fatigued, or my pain's really bad at this time. Okay, can I up my nutrition a little bit? Can I get a little extra carbs? Is there some supplementation I can take to maybe even prevent that from even happening? Another flag, like another example, we know there's some thermoregulatory differences with that fluctuation in hormones. So let's say it's preseason, we're getting ready to hit that. Soccer athletes are going to be outside, it's hot. Maybe I've got a little bit of a red flag on all my athletes that are in that thermoregulatory compromised kind of phase. And I've just got an extra marker on them saying they might be at a slightly higher risk. Everyone needs to be drinking water. That's not changing. I need to be making sure everyone's hydrating, refueling, electrolytes. That stuff stays the same. But maybe I have those other girls just kind of flagged to say, let's make sure they get a little bit extra. Or am I seeing some signs of earlier onset of fatigue that I can help them manage and overcome a little bit? So I think that's how we can utilize some of that. Flip it. I think if I'm noticing maybe performance-wise, I'm feeling really good during certain times, and that's very consistent. Maybe we try to take advantage of some of that a little bit. To me, that's normal coaching. You would do that kind of anyway. Like, they're looking real good today. Let's maybe milk a little bit more out of this. Do a few more reps. Do one more sprint. Can we take advantage of feeling good within the programming that we're already doing? So I think it's nothing major, and by no means is it anything to the extent of you're in this phase, you should only do yoga. You're in this phase, you should only do sprints. That's not what's recommended. Stick with normal training. And it's just, again, another piece to the puzzle to say, hey, maybe I either need to rest and recover a little bit more or fuel a little bit better, or hey, we're maybe coming up on a time when I can take a little bit more advantage. So maybe we push our harder block up just a little bit to take advantage of that when we're going to feel good. So again, subtle shifts. It's just one more piece to that athlete profile that we might be able to maximize on a little bit. Yeah.
And then similarly with the use of oral contraceptive or any hormonal contraceptive, you take the same approach.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think their advantage is their hormonal profile is a lot more consistent. So they're probably not going to see the variability in how they feel quite so much. So they may not need to track quite so aggressively like a normal cycling individual.
What about going from an active to the placebo phase, placebo pill?
If they're noticing a switch, yeah, they could account for that. Like you said, a lot of them tend to skip that placebo phase, so they would just be riding it out. But if they're seeing a change in how they feel as they swap between those, absolutely, they can try to account for that and maybe make that small adjustment. And just, yeah, do I need to get a little extra carbohydrate in, or go to bed 30 minutes, an hour sooner, get an extra snack in the middle of the day? Nothing. It doesn't have to be huge. But yeah, any of them can account for that.